Welcome, welcome, welcome to the intro to other Google apps. I'm so excited to have you here with us today, whether you are live or whether you're watching this in the YouTube recording. If you are watching this on YouTube, look right underneath the video. You'll see description. In that description, if you hit show more, you'll see the resource for today. So it's always there waiting on you like a warm hug. I am Dr. Desiree Alexander. I am the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting, and I am putting on these lovely webinars, whether I'm teaching them or not. On the Twitter, I'm at Educator Alex. Other social media, Educator Alexander. Website, Educator Alexander. And these are all the ways you can contact me. So some upcoming webinars tomorrow. We have diversity, equity, and inclusion in library communities. It's going to be a good one. It's only an hour. I know we're going to want to stay more than an hour, but it's going to be a good one, guys. Sarah, can you tell me, why do I have your flyer back up here? Isn't this the last session?
Well, Desiree, it is not. It is not. We talked about it, and we're going back for 2, not 1.
What?
2 more sessions, people. Get your calendars ready. It's on this same document. Desiree did a wonderful job. She updated the flyer and she updated that Google Doc that has all of the links to the registration. 2 more sessions coming at you.
What? So 2 more sessions with Sarah for Intro to Google Apps, Thursday, July 30th, which is next week. Google Forms for online assessments. And then Friday, July 31st, Google Sites. So many of you are like, we want sites. So just notice I put big in red because I'm sure I'm going to get an angry email from somebody. I put big in red. 8 to 10 Central is Google Sites. So that's the only one. It won't be at our 12 to noon. We just wanted to fit it in. We just couldn't fit it in at 12 because we have another webinar on that day right on the side of hers. Friday, all about Microsoft Teams. So we have 2 webinars on the same day. I know I'm a glutton for punishment, but 2 webinars on the same day. So that's why Sarah's is going to be from 8 to 10. And then Felisa's, all talking about Microsoft Teams, is going to be from 11 a.m. to 12:30. Moving on, classroom management, August 1st, misinformation in the and that's by me, misinformation in the information age, August 8th. Bitmojis, y'all wanted it, you requested it. The only person that could teach it is Jen. So I was like, Jen, please. So Bitmojis, August 29th. Then we have Inky. Inky's here today. Inky's going to talk about differentiating assignments in Google Classroom. I already have so many people signing up. Inky's like a rock star, guys. So there you go. And then we have Sarah and Beth coming back for Templates for Teachers, September 12th. And I've been promoting that website. It's an awesome website. Y'all got to go there. And then, of course, ones are being added all the time. So just keep up. Upcoming free events. So this is a summer camp for pre-K through 3rd grade students. If you're interested, you can get on my website and find out more information. From Kids Academy, it is free. For educators, for parents, it's $20. I'll be part of the Region 10 Irving Ed Camp. July 31st is free if you're part of Region 10 in Texas. It is, I don't know how much, it's not going to break the bank, but it is paid for everyone else. And then BER, I work with that company to provide a lot of different sessions. So this one, the one that's most recently coming up, is distance learning for ELA instructors. But I also have a distance learning general class. So you can look at that on the website. And at the end, we will give you the evaluation. This is only for people that are watching us live, and the evaluation is turned off right now because I'm going to post it 15 minutes before the session ends. I'll start posting at 45 after. I'll start posting the evaluation link. So just a quick skim through everything. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so Sarah can pick it on up. And go ahead. I think we have a lot in the chat like, yay! People, $25 for everyone else. So that's the Irving Ed Camp. It's going to be a good one, guys. So when Sarah is ready to go, I'm going to shut my mouth. Do go and sign up for the last 2 sessions in this series, but we are already talking about a different series, guys. So definitely let us know. Let us know if you have suggestions and things like that. We're already kind of discussing doing a different series. So let us know if you have suggestions. Put those questions in the chat. Some questions we will get to, some of them we won't. Remember, you can Google or practice with this. So some we will answer, some we will not. And I'm going to be quiet and let Sarah take it away.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Whew. All right. I did unmute myself, correct? All right.
Yes,
so,
ma'am, we can hear you.
Excellent. Desiree is going to earn her keep today because we're going to go through these quickly. There's, Desiree, I added one more last night at the last minute. I was like, I can't not cover. So I have a total of 10 with the potential for more. Different little Google apps and tools, or maybe little known or little used applications, things that Google shares. So get your pen and paper ready, get just your thoughts and your ideas going, and Desiree, jump in. I'm kind of thinking we're only going to get like maybe 10, 15 minutes in on each one. So just know going into all of this is going to be real quick hitters, okay? These are not meant to be like the 2 hour that we did with Sheets, or the 2 hours that we did with Docs, or 2 hours that we're going to do with Sites. Notice we've got Google Sites up here. We're going to cover that briefly today. If it piques your interest, or you already had an interest, join us on, what was the day, Desiree? Is that Friday?
That will be July 31st, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so check out that flyer again, sign up and come back, and you'll get way more details on Google Sites in the upcoming webinar. So today it's just gonna be a real short one. I know that was one that both Desiree and I had fielded several questions from you guys and other people, like, how do I do this? How do I do this? Like, what can I? So deep breath on that Sites one, know that more is coming on that. Now, these other applications, these other tools that you see on here, maybe you recognize a few of the icons. Maybe you don't. And that's okay, because Google is amazing at putting out all kinds of stuff. And sometimes I feel like they sneak things in under the radar, and they don't make big productions of certain things. I can't explain it. I don't know why they would do that, because a lot of these are very amazing tools. So there are tons of applications for them, and they can range from little ones all the way up through even adults. There are some on here that I just enjoy myself, like personally as well as professionally, but it's just something that it appeals to me. So think about it in that respect too. Welcome to everybody. Real brief overview so that we can get jumping into it. Sarah Kiefer, I am a technology integration specialist for the Ross Local Schools, and I have all my contact information right there on the slide. I do have a website, like Desiree mentioned. She's posted a link to it in the chat. Tech you can do, and like my sign up here says, I really do believe in inspiring and moving forward with education. So that is my goal. That's what I share out on my blog. Follow me on Twitter, tweet at me, tweet at Desiree, especially if you have questions or anything else. So let's jump in, shall we? So there's so much more to explore with Google. We've already covered a handful. Google has tons of stuff out there. I can't say enough how there are so many things out there that you can explore. These are the 10 that I've got laid out for us today. And then if you notice in the bottom right-hand corner, I have a surprise and I have an and more. The surprise we've already talked about. It actually just links you to the Google Doc that has all the registration information, and it's been updated to include the one for forms for online assessments, as well as the intro to Google Sites. So if you click on that surprise button, it will take you right to a real quick little snapshot, and you can sign up for both of these. When you click on this, it'll take you out. Click on the little house button, and you come back to our little table of contents here. Now, we could go through these in any particular order. There's no rhyme or reason. If we start getting short on time, Desiree, if I talk too much, maybe we'll have to pick and choose. But I'm just going to go ahead and jump in unless there are any questions right off the bat, Desiree, or are we good?
No, ma'am, we are good to go.
All right, so I'm going to jump into probably one of my top extra, because this truly is an enhancement. It is a great enhancement to any classroom. There are some cautions that go along with some of these, depending on the student's age that you work with. There are some, I don't know if I'd call them restrictions, but some of them are somewhat device specific. In my district, we have some iPads that are pretty old. They used to be able to do the first one, Google Expeditions. Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal resource. If you have newer Chromebooks, they should work on there. And by newer, I would define that mostly as Chromebooks that you can load Android apps on. I'm going to turn off my bookmarks bar real quick so that we get a little bit more screen space. And what I tried to do, each tile that links you to a new slide is laid out very much the same way. So got the title of it. I've included the icon for that particular app or website or tool. And then down at the bottom, you notice I have pretty much just one resource, and it links you out to my Wakelet, where I've been tucking in all kinds of stuff about each particular tool or application. And then if it's got a website or if it has really good other resources, I've linked you to them there. And then along the right side, it's what actually is it, what are some possible uses, and then if there are any warnings or potential cautions that I would like to throw out there, these would be things that I would say to my own teachers. These would be things that I would say to you if you and I came across each other at a conference, just to give you a heads up, because like where slides, you could use it, and depending on your age group, I mean, obviously younger students might have a little bit harder time reading everything. There are some that just carry a little bit extra. For example, Google Expeditions. So over here on the right, it literally is AR and VR. So virtual reality, and there are some augmented reality expeditions. And by that, it means it's not like paper in front of you. It's not just a website. It actually, like these students here, and I've tucked in a video for each one. So if we don't get to it, I've got a little video to kind of give you a little bit of a heads up. You can literally take your students on virtual field trips. And the last time I checked, I think there were over 700 or 800 different expeditions that are available, and they're free, which is mind-boggling. People make them. National Geographic has made some. Google makes some. A lot of companies make them. But regular average people can also make them and submit them. And then if Google approves them, the rest of us can enjoy them as well. And it's really cool. The way I've used it in the classroom is for virtual field trips. And like I said, we have iPads. We had a set of iPads. They are getting older. So each student or pairs of student, however many you have, gets an iPad, and the teacher, as the leader, takes the students on these virtual field trips. They can stand there with their iPads, and they can go back and forth and up and down, and you actually like pan around in a 360 view of the locations that you're at. Even better for teachers is that there are guides that go along with it. There's literally like verbatim what you can read that go with each of the scenes that you're in. You can annotate on your screen. So as a teacher, you're leading either off of, I would use my phone so I can maximize the number of students with iPads, or if you have a designated teacher iPad or device that can do this, you will lead students right through. So you keep the kids there. I always would tease the kids. I'm like, did everybody get their permission slip signed? And they would look at me like, well, do you have your coats? Do you have your lunch packed? I'd make it into this whole idea, and then I'd be like, I'm just kidding. We're going to stay here. You know, maybe it was raining outside that day. I'm like, you don't have to worry about the rain. We're not getting on the bus. We're going to stay here. And the one, we went to the Galapagos Islands. I'm like, yep, we're actually going to go down there and we're going to swim with a fish. And the kids thought that was so cool. And it was really neat to see them stand up and like panic. And everybody could have their own experience while we were all there together. That's what's absolutely incredible about Google Expeditions is you're in these places we would never be able to take second graders, third graders to the Galapagos Islands, right? Like that's just not even a remote possibility at this point, right? We can do it virtually. We climb Mount Everest. Again, it's not going to happen in real life, but we could do it virtually. So think about that. And what I would do is I would talk to the teachers and say, what are you covering? What are you guys doing right now in science or in math, or what are you reading about? And this expedition's website, if you click on it, I'm going to do that just real quick. You know, it gives you a great overview. They have an awesome website here, and they kind of give you some ideas and examples of what you can do. And here's, you know, virtual reality. Do you have to have these little cardboard goggles? No, they're relatively cheap. You could if you wanted to, but you absolutely don't have to. And it's amazing the things that you can do now that we couldn't have done before. And I even had a teacher friend who would set these expeditions up, and she would let the students go on them. You know, so it wasn't even that she was leading an entire class. It was small groups of students were able to do this. Now, a couple of cautions and a couple of warnings, and then Desiree, I hope you pop in and tell me if there are any questions. But the thing to keep in mind with this virtual reality and augmented reality, I've read about using this with young children. You can't do it all the time, right? Nothing is good all of the time, over and over and over and over again. Number one, they're going to get bored with it. But remember, we are altering what they're actually seeing. And you have to be aware of students that have seizures, or, you know, light sensitivity could be a potential. Some people that get motion sickness, you might need to be prepared for that. It's definitely something that I would suggest that you explore and try. Just be aware that there are some times where you have to take a deep breath and say, yeah, this is really cool, but maybe it's not for absolutely everybody. I don't want to turn you off to it. I just want you to be aware that that is a caution. And the augmented reality, especially if you start getting into where like they're wearing like the headsets, and it's, you know, it can be very unsettling at times. And I've seen people get a little bit sick feeling if they're in there too long. So again, we have to be the adults. We have to be aware of this. And it's always great to do this in small doses. So keep that in mind. And then also keep in mind, if you do allow students to go off independently, you got to keep tabs on them, right? I mean, that's just being a good teacher here. But I will say the possibilities are endless with Google Expeditions. And then there are ways, like I said, that average people, you and I, students, if you have older students that are more capable, I don't think first graders, maybe as a class you could do this, but you can actually create your own using a different Google tool, which I'm not going to be able to cover today, but it's called Tour Creator. And then you can create them and you can actually make them for other people. All right, Desiree, any questions on Google Expeditions?
We had one about how would this work for distance learning?
Okay, so I've thought about that too, kind of keeping that in mind. There are, I know National Geographic has 360 videos on their YouTube channel. It's not going to be like the same. Keep that in mind. It's not going to be the same, but you can go if you have the device that's capable of doing it. It definitely, I don't think it's anything that you're going to be able to require students to be able to do. But again, keeping in mind those newer Chromebooks that you can load Android apps on, you can load the Google Expeditions app, and potentially students can take these expeditions independently. Like right now, I could pull it up on my phone. And I've done this numerous times with my own children. Like I have an iPad and I've got my phone. So I get us both logged on and I say, okay, girls, where do you want to go? And they might say, oh, let's explore the White House at Christmas time. I think that was an expedition. It was one at least a couple years ago. And it was really cool because I could guide them through the White House in my own living room, right? So it's not going to be that same experience of when you're face to face, but the possibilities are there. And if you can load the app, it could be something that is more of that extension piece. It's more of that enrichment piece, as opposed to, okay, everybody, let's get on right now at the same time and everybody's going to do this. I don't see that as being a real feasible possibility, but I've never tried it. So maybe it is possible. That help?
Yeah, it's just something that they'll have to think through.
Right.
Everything can't be done during distance learning as well. Kristen asked a question about how Expeditions works. So she asked if it's the same as watching a video, like can you upload it to something, or is it app specific?
It is app specific. Like I couldn't run an Expedition through my laptop, okay, because my laptop doesn't load apps. And the way it works is I would be the tour guide, and then your students would be, you know, the tourers. They would be on the tour with me, and it does have to do with not like you have to be like sitting right next to them, but it does, you have to be like on the same, I want to say Wi-Fi. Some of them come with their own routers and modems and things like that that keep you connected together. And then it is literally like the teacher is walking students from room to room on their device. So I always tell the teachers, like, you never have to worry about losing a student. You don't have to worry about leaving someone behind. You don't have to worry about kids running ahead to the next room or hanging out in the back, because the teacher is forcing everybody to move together into each, and I believe they call them scenes. I think on the teacher thing it refers to them as cards, but you're moving students from scene to scene in these 360 video imageries. But it's not like a video that you can upload to somewhere. Like I said, National Geographic does have some 360 videos on their YouTube channel. You could look at something like that. But again, how does that actually look for you in your particular classroom? That'd be a good thing to investigate. All right, you ready for the next one?
Yes, we are.
All right, Google Drawings. I love Google Drawings. The way I explain Google Drawings is right over here. What is it? It is a digital collaborative design app. And to break it down even better, if you were here and you came to Google Slides, a drawing is one slide. No more, no less. It's one. That's it. That's all you get. And you can kind of see on this preview that it is one mat, and that's it. What you see is what you get. You cannot add on a second one. You can't add on a third one. You can stretch it. You can make it different sizes, but what you see is what you get, and that's it. So then you would say, well, Sarah, why would I use this if it doesn't sound as versatile? Keep in mind, possible use is right over there. Creating graphic organizers and doing them digitally. And this is one where I do think it is important for a graphic organizer to keep it contained to one. You know, sometimes there's beauty in boundaries and sometimes there's beauty in restrictions. So if you can keep them contained here, you don't have to worry about them being over here or up here or down here. Or, like, you don't have to worry about that. They're all right here. And that's it. I had students that could sit there, and if I told them they had 30 minutes to take a test, they took every second of that 30 minutes. If I had students, or I would have those same students, if I gave them 2 hours, they would take every minute of that 2 hours. A lot of students will just take whatever it is that you give them. Now, not everybody is that way, but you will have students like that. So if you only give them one space, that's all they can fill up. So graphic organizers, interactive activities, especially for the little ones. This is great because you don't have to worry about slide 2 and slide 5 and slide 10. It's all right there. That's it. Very simple, straightforward, and they can't really get lost in places. If you make posters, if you make graphics, if you make badges, hey, and I'm going to tell you, down in the resources down there in that Google Drawings, I did tuck in a template for a digital badge that, like Desiree pointed out, I'm going to come back in September with my co-creator, Beth Kingsley. And I have a template for digital badges that shows up on our Templates for Teacher website. You can take, modify, do with it what you want. and then you have a bunch of badges. Whether you print them or you hand them out digitally, it's all fair game. But Google Drawings is great for that because you can make transparent images. So what I'm going to do is I made a little demo. So we're going to pop into there, and I'm going to show you just a couple of things, nothing wild and crazy, but when you look at it, just like we've talked about with the slides and sheets and docs, there are toolbars. And if you can become familiar with toolbars in one Google app, you're going to see it in other Google apps, at least the icons, and transfer that knowledge over. So how it works over in slides is probably how it's going to work here in Google Drawings. Now, I will also say it's a little bit more of a simplified toolbar. Keep in mind, Drawings is not built to be the same as slides. Slides is a presentation tool. This is really just a design tool, graphics, building small individual, like right here, things. Now, the cool thing though, just like with slides, you can go to File and then go to Page Setup, and you can customize the size of your, and I would refer to it as a mat, that black or that gray and white little checkerboard square in the background. I refer to that as the mat. That's like your working area. So if you were thinking about printing something, that would be the space that you would be printing. So think about, and this is what you've got to do every time you make a slide or a doc or a drawing. Keep in mind, like, how are you going to use it in the end? So for this Google Drawing, if you're thinking about printing, you've got to think about your dimensions, like paper is 11 by 8.5 or 8.5 by 11, however you want to lay it out. And then you can't see that, but it did slightly change. Or the other really cool thing about Google Drawings, and this I do like this, if you don't care about printing it at the end and you don't care about the dimensions of it, you can take this little corner down here. It's got all those little like slash marks. It's not super noticeable, but when you point it out, you kind of go, well, huh, what is that? What is that? So if you notice, it turns into a little arrow, and you can pull and drag it, and you drag it to whatever you want. So I'm gonna pull it out to the right, and notice it just expanded my mat. So I've got a much longer rectangle now. And looking up at the top, you see the little ruler up there, and you can see the ruler over here on the left side too. So I'm expanding and making my drawing a different size because I'm not going to worry about printing. Okay, so this is not one that I'm worried about that. Now notice you've got a lot of the same tools up here. You can insert any of these lines, you can insert shapes, you can insert text boxes, you can insert images, and again, the same options are going to show up. And you still do have the commenting feature. So if you create a template and then you share it in Google Classroom, make a copy for every student, you can still come back in and you can comment, or students can comment to each other and give each other feedback. Keep that in mind too. And then notice, now that I've inserted the text box, different tools pop up. That should feel very comfortable because that's what Slides does. So again, I'm here adjusting your font, your size, bold, italics, underline, all of that kind of stuff stays the same. So there you go. So I got that in there. Maybe I want to make it ginormous. Maybe I want to add in a picture. You know, again, let's find a cute little pupper dog. We'll insert that guy. He's cute. You know, think about students creating posters to demonstrate their knowledge. This would be a great tool because, again, it keeps them here. They can, oh, I put that on the third slide, Mrs. Kiefer. It's no. Here's your poster. It's great. Again, you've got the arrange tools. You can format things when you have them selected, obviously. Viewing. This is a great one too, and this helps students line things up really nicely. This is also in Slides. The guides, I love seeing these guides in here, and they're not actually on my drawing. They're laying on top of. But if you want to, and if you look closely, there's that red line. It shows up. That's the midway point. And then again, there's the red line horizontally. That's the midway point. And then that can help guide students into laying things out in a visually pleasing way. The biggest difference, I would say, and this is sometimes where we get a little bit like agitated and kind of prefer, and this is where I prefer to use slides if this is something that is important to me, is you can't insert images as the background. So where I do a 2-finger tap on my mat and I come to background, the only option I'm going to have, and I get this question quite frequently, you cannot put an image as your background. You can change the color of it, you know, if I want to go dark gray, and I can put the dog in, I can put him in the background by using my arrange tool, but he's not actually the background. He's not going to stay, like he will always be movable. So if I were to make a copy of this for students, they're going to be able to move the dog all around. I can't lock him in the back. Now, that's not, honestly, that is not a bad thing, because again, that is my purpose. I've got to be thinking about what am I using Google Drawings for? But the same benefits carry over to this gray space out here to the side. So again, thinking about graphic organizers or T-charts or sorting things, you can be dragging and dropping stuff from the, I like to call it like that gray space on the side. You can be dragging that stuff over and moving it around. And don't forget your same tools. This is probably one of my favorite things to do is I tell the students, like, you have your online scissors, right? And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, double or triple click on your image and then you can be cropping these images. I just absolutely love doing this because sometimes these pictures, you just want to get a certain part of them. And I just use my online digital scissors to crop that little picture, as well as this little shark tooth. Remember how I love my little shark tooth? Click on him. I can also mask him in a circle, a triangle. Obviously, some shapes work a little bit better than others. And there you go. You could be talking about shapes with your students of all ages. You know, insert pictures and then, you know, one picture needs to be a pentagon, one picture needs to be a square, one picture needs to, you know, you could go wild with some of these, what seem to be like, oh, why would I ever use that? But when you take that little bit and you throw it in, and this is where infusing tech really becomes crazy for these kids. It becomes like crazy fun because they're like, oh, what else? What other shapes can I do, Mrs. Kiefer? Can I insert a picture into, you know, a circle? And sure. I mean, let's talk shapes, you know. And another really great thing that you can do is click on format options and you can talk size. Math teachers out there, I know you're out there, math teachers. This lock aspect ratio, and again, this stuff also carries over into slides. When you click that lock aspect ratio and you talk about, well, what if I made this 1 inch narrower? You know, look at the, you know, talk about math here. What if I made this 5.04? What's that going to do to the height? You know, and even if you're just like, is it going to make it bigger? Is it going to make it smaller? Is it not going to do anything? And this aspect ratio thing, you know, proportions. So here's a little bit of math class. Like, what happened? Oh, okay. You know, and then you have those kinds of conversations. That's really cool to be able to do and show students right then and there in front of them. They could be practicing with this. They could be verbalizing and conversing about this. This would be something great. Think about remote learning. You know, if you had this up, and you can see I've got a couple of people on here. If more of my students were in here and I, you know, okay, you go out and you find a pentagon and you bring back a square and you bring in, your students could be putting them all in there, and that could be a very interactive activity. So you can tell, like, I love drawings. I probably could go on for a while, but Desiree, questions before I move on to the next one?
How did you get the grid lines again?
Oh, that is in view, and then there's guides. And notice I've got they're perpendicular to each other, right? I just have the two, but you can either clear them, which, you know, takes them all away. You can add in additional. So here again, if you're working with vocabulary with students, let's add in a vertical guide. Where is that going to go? What is that going to look like? Is that this way or is that this way? And social studies people, latitude, longitude. possibility, throw in a map here, start putting in these lines. I'm just saying, social studies. Right, Desiree? That'd be a fun thing for us to do, right?
Could be.
And then here's another guide. Notice they're very, and probably having a gray background, it was probably not my best choice here, but you see the guide over here, you could work to, and then mathematically, I mean, this is almost 14 inches wide. Halfway would be almost 7, and there was another half of that, and divide this up into 10 or 14 or 6 pieces, fractions. I mean, you could really do a lot with math inside of Google Drawings, and that's all in the view, because again, you're going to be seeing these. You're going to view these, and then here's your guides. So you can add in lots of guides, or you can clear them and then you don't have them anymore. Boom, they're gone.
Another question, how can I center the image on the doc? On, I guess, the drawing.
On the drawing? Okay, so I'm going to pick up my dog, and I took the guides away, so you don't see the guides, and this isn't a perfect 14-inch wide mat. Okay, it's an odd, and I wouldn't be able to figure out exactly the halfway point without doing maybe some calculations, but drawings is going to help you out. So does slides. So I'm going to pick him up and I'm going to move him. Now notice I'm going a little bit north, and now I'm going a little bit south, and watch the red lines. And that one goes all the way across your screen. So that tells me that my dog picture is now equally above and below that line, the horizontal line. Likewise, I'm going to try to keep him on that horizontal line, and I'm going to start moving him left and right. Oop, I lost there you go. And now do you see that red line show up vertically? That's telling me that that is the midway point that on my horizontal. Yeah, I've got him now in the dead center of the screen, and I'm going to let go. So those red lines aren't going to stay there, but they do guide you into where those points are. So keep that in mind. They're not permanent, but you also can take your image and you can line them up with more than. Notice these red lines are showing up in other places. So I've got the top of the dog, which right now is that little point because of the shape I've masked him, is right in line with the bottom of my text box. Not the bottom of my words, but the actual box itself. So if I were to turn on a color, notice that the colors barely touch. I could zoom in here, and that those colors just barely touch right there. So I've aligned the top of the picture with the bottom of the text box. Guides are fantastic little tools. And if you don't remember from slides, oops, I got to turn off my zoom here. I always forget. Go back to my cursor. So let's say I want my dog to be perfectly in line with that little, the corner of my text box. If I use my right arrow key, do you see how much he's moving? And I'm going to get him pretty close. Like I could drag him, but I've got him lined up. I don't want to mess that up. But then if you hold your shift key, he just moves this teeniest, tiniest bit. Okay. And I heard that recently, thanks to Desiree, you're going to recognize this name, Carol Nelson. I was listening to her on a podcast with Kim Matina, and she called them scooches and nudges. The scooch is when you just tap your arrow key and they move like a jump. And then holding the shift key and then your arrow key and they move just the teeniest, tiniest bit. And I heard once that it was you're moving them by pixel when you did the little nudges. So the shift key and your arrow moves them just the tiniest bit. That's just a little side tip, and that works in slides. It works in drawings too. So keep that in mind, those alignment pieces.
We have one more question that I have no clue how to answer. Can you separate the picture like making your own puzzles? Is there a button that you can just click and get separate? I was like, oh, I have no clue. I think LumaPic does that, but I don't know about Google Drawings.
You'd have to be really willing to sit here and play, right? So if you wanted to, it's not going to be a perfect thing, I don't think, but I had thought about this recently. But if you do your masking and you just mask portions of the picture, and then I would duplicate it and put it right next to there, and then you'd have to open it up and, you know, maybe nudge it over. Now he's, you know, perfect. You see how the shadows kind of overlap and it looks not blurry right in here. Like I said, this is how I could see it being done. I don't know of another way in drawings to just click one magic button and making it happen, but this could be a potential, you know, and then you could separate your pieces out. But again, you'd have to be thinking of, they'd have to be like the squares or the rectangle shapes. You're not going to get those typical jigsaw puzzle pieces unless you tried and were successful with the polyline, which I kind of find pretty frustrating. But that's just me. Maybe it'll work for you. So not magic like quick snap your fingers, but I have thought of puzzles in that respect. And like Desiree said, there's plenty of applications out there that you can toss in images and it will automatically do that. And I know that there are some that you can copy all of them and bring them back into, like, copy and paste them into a drawing. That might be a better way to go. But if somebody else has any ideas, throw it in the chat. All right, we ready for our next one?
Yes, we are.
All right, here we go. Google Earth. So I am a self-professed history and geography nerd. Love it. I love maps. I love learning countries' names and locations and unique things about them. I prided myself when I was young about knowing all of the 48 contiguous United States. I love that word, contiguous. Again, shows you just how nerdy I am. That's okay. I embraced it. I love it. Google Earth is amazing. Amazing. If you haven't checked it out, it's web-based. Go there. The website's down below. They have an awesome YouTube channel. They're on Twitter. I've got a Wakelet with different resources, people that share stuff out. It literally is a 3D representation of Earth. It is awesome. Like, I wish I could use Google Earth more. And if you want to partner up and you want somebody to help you with it, like, please contact me, because I think Google Earth is one of those tools that it used to not be accessible to everybody. You used to have to download it and you had to run like some crazy program stuff. And now it's web-based and it is beautiful. And like, I would sit here and I would just like watch the videos. Like, when I was trying to find the one that I wanted to show on here, I'm like, oh, how do I pick? Like, they're gorgeous. And I have to say, just going to their website, and I'm not going to, I promise I won't stay there and I won't start drooling and be like, okay, what can we do here? Like, incredible. So regardless of your content, great for social studies teachers, great for language arts teachers, great for science teachers, math, you could bring in and draw shapes on the earth or find shapes on the earth or measuring distances. You can do a lot. You really can. But you help students visualize all of those abstract places. 7th grade, I taught ancient history, ancient China. My 7th graders here in this small corner of Ohio really don't have a whole big concept of what China, let alone ancient China, is. Like, what is it like? Like, you hear it and they recognize it, but what is ancient China? You know, what does China even look like? Google Earth, I can take them there. Like, we can go on this globe, this 3D rendering of Earth. We can go there, you know, and you can jump in and you can look at this stuff. You help them visualize that. Another real popular idea, I think, is like Anne Frank. A lot of people read that book, but how many of our students actually know where Germany is? Like, we can help them with that. We could show them these places on Earth. Now, is it during her time? No, but at least you give them a concept of, we're here and she's here. She was here. You know, you can travel, literally travel the world. It is incredible. And I love this too. You can grab and spin and pan and tilt and do all kinds of stuff. So let's just go there for a real quick minute. And I just even love how it loads. It's loading right now. Isn't that beautiful? Like, that's just a gorgeous picture. It's not like too many websites that you ever come across. And there you go. It's like you're floating in space. And then I'm tilting, and this is me doing it. Like, it's not the website doing it. I am doing this. I am moving the earth around. You know, oh, hey guys, look what continent that is. You know, that's one continent. And when you come up here, ooh, which ones are, you know, north of it? Which ones are to the east? What if you know, go to the bottom of the globe? Like, what's down there? Ooh, what do you guys notice? What do you see? You know, how cool is that? Can we zoom in? Absolutely. Look at that, zooming in. I mean, look at the, like, it is beautiful. Okay, like I could sit here all day. Like, let's just look. But don't just sit here and just like pan the globe, because that's not all that's there. Look over here to the left. Check out this little Voyager wheel. This is a pretty cool thing. So they already have some of these voyages pre-packaged and built in here for you. So look at all of these different things that they have here, different categories. Check them out. Like, look at all these places. Machu Picchu. I'm probably not saying that wrong. I apologize. All of these amazing things at your fingertips, free. They're there. Let your students explore. You know, think about in these remote times, and, you know, frame yourself like, if we're in person, doing this together is wonderful. In remote times, hey guys, go to Google Earth, like, check out some of this stuff. I mean, the 5 big beasts of Africa. See what their passions are. What are they interested in? Are you interested in rooftop gardens? Didn't even know that was a thing. Look at these, this little place over here, natural volcanic fueled hot springs. The images alone will draw your students in, and they'll go like, wow, look at all this stuff. That's so cool. And you tell me, like, that could be pretty incredible for your students to do some learning. Tell them to pick one of these and then write 5 sentences. What are 5 things that you learned? What are 5 things that you found out? Or what other questions do you have now? And where could you go and explore? Where could you go and research with that? These could be their own little projects. And think about all of the language arts skills that's built into there. Whether they're writing on paper, or they've got it on a slide, or they're typing it up in a Google Doc, or whatever the different ways that you want to, or let them record a video of themselves talking to you about what they found out in Mandela's footsteps. I mean, the options, the possibilities really are amazing, and it's all right here. Now, I will say, again, I could stay here. We could go deeper. We could look and zoom in and drop our little pin map guy down into Earth. We could do a lot here. I do have to, and I would be remiss if I didn't say this, there are some cautions. Google Earth is not covered under the G Suite of tools. They can be restricted. This website can be restricted for students under the age of 13. So again, that could be a turnoff to you, but stop and think. You, the teacher, could have this up on your screen. So don't always look at the limitations as bad. I feel like I have to throw them out there so that you are aware, so you don't come back and say, well, Sarah, my kids couldn't get on. Just keep this in mind, or have a conversation with your tech director. I'm not your tech director. I can't make those decisions for you. But if you can go to your tech director, and after you've played around with Google Earth, after you've come up with, hey, look, I've got these 3 lessons, and this is where it fits in, and this is why I would like to use it, it might be a worthwhile conversation to have, not just for your students, but for other students too. So I'm never here to push things that are not appropriate, but I do believe that as teachers, we can go a long way in helping shape the learning experiences. We go a long way in shaping all of the learning experiences. So keep that in mind, that things get turned off for a reason, or not turned on for a reason, or maybe they're not even aware. I want you to be aware so that you can make a better educational view and position on it. So if you want to go talk to your tech director or something, Just have some of those things in mind. And please promise me that you'll come back and you'll watch this video. I could sit here. It's 3 minutes long and we need to move on to another app, but I could sit here and watch it. Like the way they pan around, they've got some music in the background. Oh, it's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. All right, Desiree, I will stop talking and see if there are any questions.
We are loving it. No, there are no questions.
I love Google Earth. Please promise that you'll check it out. It really is incredible. And maybe you're like me and you're nerdy geography wise and you go, for my students, heck, I want to check this out for me. Yep, you go right ahead. Go right ahead for yourself. Do it. Go on 1,000 different vacations right now, because maybe you don't go on any vacations right now, like so many people. Just saying, you could go on Google Earth. You can go on a vacation every 5 minutes. All right, let's move on. Next one, Google Keep. And Desiree, please weigh in, because I'm going to be honest. Google Keep is not one of my favorites. I'll use it. I haven't fallen in love with it like a lot of people have. But Google Keep does have a great idea behind it. If you're a person like me, Post-it notes, I love Post-it notes. I have a ton of Post-it notes. Google Keep are digital Post-it notes. It does have an extension. It is on the website, or like a web page, and it is on phones and mobile devices and all that. And it syncs across all of them. So keep that in mind. It's also integrated into, let me go back to my drawing, I left it up. Google Keep can be integrated into drawings and slides and docs, calendar, and many other places. You'll see that little Google Keep icon out there. So that means any of the Keep notes that you have, you can drag and drop over into. It's a very collaborative thing. You can share Keep notes between people, like Desiree and I could have a Google Keep note of ideas for another webinar series. She could add to it. I could add to it. She could subtract from it. I could subtract from it. I could put notes on there. She could put, and we're seeing that together. We're sharing that idea together. I could put in, post links to different things. Your students, a big one that I've seen students using Google Keep for. And again, it's not going to work for all students. Nothing works for all students, but it is a possibility. And I would say definitely geared towards older students, maybe for homework. Maybe they have a Post-it note for that day. Like, what is my homework? And they type that kind of thing in. Keep that in mind. Like my play on words, keep that in mind. Again, I have a little video here, but I'm going to actually go to Google Keep and I'm going to use a different account because I do have some Keep notes. I'm going to go to Keep. Oh, I already have it up. Silly me. So here's what Google Keep looks like. It's really like little Post-it notes all around. And notice the little icons at the bottom. Remember how I've said that if you're familiar with tools in one application, look for them in the other ones and they should feel familiar. You can change color. It's a big one for me. You can add collaborators. You can share these notes with each other. You can even insert images. To pretty up your notes or for very valid reasons. Or if you're working with kids with this, it might be a good idea to, I was going to pull from my desktop and I don't think I have any. Inserting an image such as like for home to do, maybe it's a picture of a house, or for school, maybe you find an image that represents school. Color coding can go a long way. If you identify colors for specific home versus school, and red's always going to be my color, so I'm definitely going to put it on here. You can make numerous notes, webinars for the future, and I can start typing in more Google Advanced Google. Here I am talking to myself. Like, you could just type, but you can also come down to the world's skinniest snowman and you can show checkboxes. And it actually converted that just text into a checklist. And when you're ready, you hit, or if I want to, I could share this with Desiree. Or if I'm done, I could click close. And then notice, like, it's there. And here's the cool thing. You can rearrange. And if you notice when I hover over them, you see that little pin. If I want to make sure that this particular keep note stays up at the top, I would just click on that pin and notice how it separates them. So if I want certain things pinned, I can have more than one thing pinned, and there it is, which is really awesome because then you can make sure that certain notes stay up there at the top while other things are going to fall to the bottom because you've prioritized them in that way. There are just tons of things that you can do at a drawing. I think this is where you can freehand, right? Now let's go back. And there, it's added that in. And if I don't like it, I'll just delete it. I'm gonna leave it in there just for fun. So look at Google Keep as an easy way for you to jot yourself notes. And the amazing thing is what I have on here, I can sync to my phone. I can see it on another computer when I log in with this account. If I've collaborated with someone, they're going to see the changes that are made. And then this, hands down, is a pretty awesome, if you use this for a to-do list or a checklist or a student using this for homework, when you're done, you like that. I love that satisfaction of crossing that off my list. I just click that box and it's done. It literally crosses it off. Maybe I did pay the phone bill. Fantastic. So I only have one thing left on my home to-do list. And you do have some options here. So you could copy it to Google Docs. That's a pretty cool option. Like if you want to put it in there, I wouldn't do that with my home to-do list. You can make a copy of this whole thing. You could add a label, and this would be, maybe you label this home, and then notice that that shows up here. And then let's give this one a label. And then look over here. You see these labels show up right here. This kind of feels a little Google Classroom, like the topics. So if you label your Google Keep notes, you can narrow in what you're looking at. Just like with the topics, when you click on the topics in Google Classroom, you're narrowing down your list of everything that you're seeing. So again, thinking about if students were using this for homework, and maybe instead of school, it was they're labeled as homework, and they had a bunch of different notes for homework. Like, again, the possibilities are endless here. Like you could do a lot. And I really have no warnings or cautions other than if you really like color and you like to add in images and different pictures and stuff, it might be a spot where you can expect to spend a lot of time and enjoy and have a good time. And over here, keep in mind, it does integrate with docs and calendars and slides, and it syncs. It's a very versatile tool. So I do recommend that you check it out. But out of all of these, or out of any of these, just remember, you don't have to use all of them. I'm just showing you these so that you're exposed to them. All right, Desiree, questions? Or do you have anything to add?
No, just Google Keep does some awesome things. It also does OCR, where it will pull the words from the picture for you, and it does other stuff. But again, this is just a little snapshot of each one. So I think we are good to move on.
Okay. All right, Google Sites. Everybody take a deep breath. Just remember, we're only going to do a little bit with this. All right, so this video I pulled from Google's Applied Digital Skills, and he starts talking about Google Sites and the different things that you can do in Google Sites. So do check it out. Really, Google Sites is amazing because it's Google's ability for you to create a website. And I know that seems daunting. You almost, like, until you do it, you don't know what you don't know, and you think like, oh, people pay big bucks to build websites, and companies fork out thousands, or I don't even know what they pay for websites. Google Sites is free. It's part of Google. It integrates with everything Google. You can embed things from Google. You can insert the possibilities are endless. If you came to Desiree and I did a webinar, gosh, it feels like forever ago, but I don't even know that it was. I think it might have been like just about 2 months ago. where I showed how I build an app. And I started out with a Google slide. And then when I found some irritations and limitations with Google Slides, I switched over and I started using Google Sites to build an app. And I found that to be highly functional. Love it. I've built several of them, and I just think that there's a lot of value in it. But Google Sites are great for the classroom. They're great if you're a moderator of a group, or maybe in your personal life, you are assisting and you're an advisor or something, and you work with a group, and you feel like having a Google site is one great place to contain all of your information. Google Sites are great for that. Portfolios. A lot of people are talking about portfolios, especially in this remote learning period that we're all in. Having Google Sites could be a great way for you as a teacher to share, all of the great things that you've done, but it's also could be a way for your students to be sharing their information. Now, let's qualify this. Portfolios are very, very different from using Google Classroom as your back and forth with student assignments. Portfolios are not everything. They're very select, specific items that are put there. Just like you would never turn in on a teacher portfolio, like maybe you're going on a job interview, you would never bring every single lesson plan that you've ever done, right? You would never bring all of the student work as evidence with you. No, you would be picking exemplars or examples or just individual pieces. You're highlighting certain things. So Sites isn't a replacement for something like Google Classroom, or if your district uses a different LMS, it's not replacing that. These portfolios are really to demonstrate something, whether it's mastery of a topic or it is exemplars of their student work. It's a different concept than what you would do with Google Classroom, because I get that a lot. I've seen that in several different places. Well, why would I use Sites if I have Classroom? They're two separate ideas and entities, and so keep them separate. Group projects, like at the end, how are your students demonstrating everything that they've done? It could be a Google Doc, it could be a slide, it could be done through a video, it could also be done through a Google site. Students could build a site. Or if everyone is doing projects, maybe that's the way you as a teacher bring everything together to share it out to the community or to parents or to just your students. Because that is something that's pretty sweet about Google Sites, is it doesn't have to be these wide open, public to everybody sites. You can have that website restricted just to your domain. Again, you have to think, like, what is the purpose of what you're doing? Is it so that parents and the wider community can see student work? You have to publish it then to a wider, audience. But you could keep it contained. So again, that's going to be that conversation that you have either with like your principal, your administrator, your tech director, have it with somebody. But Google Sites is a great place to be bringing in all of this stuff, whether it's you doing it or your students doing it. It's really cool. And they call it now the new Google Sites versus Classic, which was the Sites of a couple years ago. Sites is constantly evolving. It's just like all of the other Google tools. It's evolving. It's adding more options. It's adding more capabilities. And I created a Google site with the new version a couple years back, and I was pretty disappointed. Thought, this is what they're going to. I'm gonna have to figure out something else. But in just a couple of years, now I build an app using Google Sites. It's still a Google website. Okay, so it's not a full-on app, but because now it has a lot more of those abilities, I can do a whole lot more with it. So keep that in mind. A great reference of somebody to check out that has a lot of knowledge is this website that I have listed down here at the bottom, Stiegel. They do a lot with keeping people up to date and really sharing out, okay, this is what Google said that they're doing now. This is actually like what it looks like, how you do it, and gives a better explanation of it too. And I've also linked down here, Intro to Google Sites, if you're looking for more information. Remember, today is not the day for it. Desiree and I are going to come back on July 30th, 31st, one of those two, sign up, come back, and we'll go into a much, much, much deeper dive on Google Sites and building one, creating ideas, ways of embedding multiple different things. So come back and join us for that one. Be sure to check out this little Wakelet resource that has a lot of different resources in there to help guide you with Google Sites, because it really is a pretty cool tool, and it is not that hard. It is really not that hard. I'm very impressed with that. All right, Desiree, questions, comments?
Oh, I think you are good to go.
All right, next one. Ooh, let me click on here. Jamboard. All right, put in the chat. I'm really curious. How many people have actually heard of Jamboard? I'm wondering if a lot have, or if not many have. Jamboard is newer.
And let me play with it a bit. Some people have not heard it. Some people have heard of it, but never used it. A lot of nopes. I have, and yeses.
Okay, so everybody's like all over. Now, here's a misconception that I want to clear up. When Jamboard came out, my understanding was that it was a physical board. And that's true. Google does have a physical board that they call Jamboard that uses what I'm about to show you. But you don't have to have the physical board like a smart board or an Eno board or Promethean or whatever you like. You don't have to have the physical Jamboard to use this. It is an app. You can pull it up on a browser. And remember, keep in mind, when you go from like something that's on mobile versus something that's on a computer, there are going to be some slight differences. But Google's Jamboard app is just what it says over here. It's a whiteboard. So if you've ever had that frustration in slides or maybe in drawings, if you've used that, you can't really freehand. You can't really draw in slides. Remember, it's not built to be that. It's a presentation tool. Jamboard will give you that ability. It will allow you to do more of that freehand stuff. It will allow you to do the, paintbrush strokes and handwriting, if you will. If you have a touchscreen device, I will say the app is a lot more friendly. I was exposed to this probably for real when I went to the Innovator Academy. Look what shirt. This shirt, I'm going to just show you this real quick. Desiree got this shirt for me because she's my captain. She's my leader. Right when I went to Innovator, Team Power Up. So we use Jamboard some, not a lot. I've used it several times since. So what I thought might be the best is just to create a jam. And I'm going to go in there and we're going to just check this little guy out. So when you open it up, it kind of has a mix feeling in here. The visual of it kind of makes me think about a Google drawing, kind of a Google slide. But when you look up here, there's just not a lot of a toolbar. There's really not. There's not a whole lot there. Now, more on the slide side comparison, you can add frames. You could have multiple frames. I think the limit is like 20 frames total. So it's not like slides where you could have 100 or more. You are limited. And I do believe you are limited. I think I put it on here. Only 50 people can be in a jam at one time. So you are, and that's across the board for the vast majority of Google tools. There are limits on that as well. But look, it's just a beautiful white piece of paper, if you will. It's a whiteboard. You could use this with your students. And I've got a couple of people joining me here. And right now you guys just have viewing privileges. So again, you can do the sharing. The sharing can allow people to come in and we could all be working on this collaboratively. If you have multiple frames, you could have 5 students on each frame and they could each be doing their work. And then you as the teacher can be going back and forth and monitoring. Another cool thing over here is you see the little pen icon. You have a handful of different pens. So that one's actually a pen. That one, there you got a marker. Here's a highlighter and then a paintbrush. If you're looking for a lot of color options. You're not going to find it in Jamboard yet, not yet. There are only 6 colors at the moment. So notice how it changes the color of the pen. So I'm going to do my little marker. See, it becomes that very freehand idea. I have an eraser if I wanted to erase, and I could just erase parts of my picture. And this is where I think, again, a touch screen would be a little bit more friendly. Another really cool thing in here is the sticky note. Okay, so we just talked about Google Keep over here. I gotta spell. You can change the color. You could select the none, and then it kind of looks like it's just text on your screen. You can do a little bit of tilting. You can add in more post-it notes, and maybe this time but you can move them around. You can change the size of them. It's pretty cool to be able to do this kind of stuff. You also have a little laser pointer to where you could, you know, highlight. Look at this green post-it note here. Thank you for joining us. You know, you got your little laser, and it's, I apologize for my dogs. Apparently somebody is here. You can add in images, and this should look familiar too because it's going to pop up the Google image search. Maybe we look for a rainbow. And you can add in pictures, and then think about what you could do with your students. If you add in images, you can have students then be talking about them. Maybe they go out and find images and bring them back. Like, what else could you find? Think about for primary students, you know, that's red or shapes of different kinds. Now I'm going to move to a new frame. And here's something that I do like, and I think math teachers, you're going to really enjoy this one. If you look at backgrounds, there's not tons of backgrounds that you can insert, and you can't insert custom ones yet, but you can put in graph paper. I love this, graph paper, and then your students could actually draw in some graphs, or if you can insert a graph, you know, an image of a graph, and then maybe the post-it note becomes where students are talking about it. Always there, you have your zoom, so you can really zoom in on a particular piece. Backgrounds, again, they're pretty limited. Now you have the dots, and maybe students are journaling. This might be a great place for them to be jotting down some thoughts. I really think that Jamboard is going to be something that you're going to start hearing a lot more about. You're going to find a lot more uses for it. And if you think about your boards and your projectors, think about the ways that you could incorporate this into your classroom. Students can all be on this. Notice I got 2 other people in here with me. So if we were all collaborating together, I, as the teacher, have this projected up here on my board for all of my students to see. But if I've got the anonymous blobfish, and I say, hey, can you answer the question on frame 3? And anonymous cormorant, can you answer the question on frame 4? They could be working on that, and then their work gets displayed up here. Now, what do you think that means then for remote learning? You could have one jam with, you know, maximize out your number of frames that you can put in there, divide up your students how you see fit, but you can all be on this jam together, or maybe not live at the same time, but this could be the assignment that's shared, and you could have students be working on it, contributing to it. I think jam is something that you're going to find a lot of use for coming up, and if you explore it, I think if you explore it, and I do have a bunch of resources down here, will help you better understand how you can utilize jam with your students, regardless of their age. And be sure to check out those resources down there. There's a lady, Kim Matina, I just recently came across this. I tweeted it out, I think yesterday or the day before, that was shared, and I've got it linked in my resources. There were like 16 example activities that you could do with students, various contents. Some were social studies, some were science, some were math. various activities that you could do using Jam. They're already ready to go. Like you can see, they lay it out for you. I really recommend checking that out because Jam is, I mean, it's crazy. It just is, it's a wonderful tool. So I really highly encourage you to check it out. All right, questions, Desiree?
No, I think we are good. A lot of people are really liking it and thinking about the different uses for it.
And I just love the freehand ability. That was always something that I'm like, oh, slides doesn't let me do this. Why can't kids just, it doesn't work that way, but Jamboard could. Oh, and one last thing. I totally forgot to say this. You should be able to, I think it's under the snowman. Yep. You can download. So if students do work or if you do something in Jam and you want to save it, you can save it as an image, download it as a PDF. And I will say that I did in a different PD that I was in, and I was a student in that PD, we did confirm that if you, the teacher, create a Jam, you can post this in Google Classroom and use that, make a copy for each student, and then each student gets their own copy of the Jam. So there was question about whether or not that was actually true. So in that PD that I was in, the teacher actually went and she did that and it worked. So everybody got a copy of the Jam that the teacher had created. So keep in mind that that does work, as well as Google Jams live in Google Drive. So notice that little icon. Again, it's going to be tucked under the More menu way down at the bottom. And Jamboard is something, I believe, that has to be turned on by your administrator. I think it's one that's by default. I could be wrong, but that's the way it came out, that it was turned off by default. So if you're not able to access Jamboard, talk to your tech director or try it out in a personal account. And again, then have that conversation. But it really is a very versatile tool. So highly recommend. Obviously, I'm highly recommending all of these things, right? You'll be like, tech directors are going to come find me and say, will you quit giving people all these ideas? And I will say, nope, I will always give ideas. All right, so let's move on, shall we?
One question, I'm so sorry. Can the Jamboard page size be changed? I didn't think so, but I wanted to ask just in case.
I don't think so. No, I think like it is what it is. I don't see any adjustments. And quite honestly, at this point, I don't know why you would want to, because it's gonna download as a PDF automatically, so it's gonna automatically make it fit onto a page. Saving it as an image, it's gonna save it as the image. But again, keep in mind, like there's this updates section and this feedback. If you ever see that, give Google feedback. If that's something that you want, they read this stuff. A lot of the things I know specifically in Google Classroom have come about because teachers have given feedback. So make sure that you give feedback. Okay. All right, Google Calendar. Oof. This could be its own. I love Google Calendar. I live by my Google Calendar. Like it says over here, it's time management, it's scheduling. I have notifications show up. I've linked my Google Calendar to my watch. I love it. I absolutely love it. Our school district, this is really, in large part, this is where my Google adventure began, because our principal said to us many, many years ago that they were going to start using Google Calendar instead of handing us paper calendars. And I was kind of like, I need my paper calendar. I love it. Like I have to have it, right? And I put it in my binder. I put it in my notebook. I have to have this. And he said, you know, we're going to go and we're going to start using this Google Calendar. So everybody's going to get shared on this. And then we had to start signing up for the computer lab with a Google Calendar. And I kind of got like, Google. And now look at me, like I love Google. But I always think back to that. And Google Calendar was really the first place that we started out. And it was kind of crazy how quickly I was like, oh, this is really cool, because if dates change, and they change, or times change, and they're going to change, and my principal, Chris, would change the date and the time, he didn't have to send me an email. He didn't have to send me a note in my mailbox. It changed on my calendar. It was wonderful. You know, I started sharing a home calendar with my husband. You know, we had small children at the time. You know, they go to the doctor like every 6 months or something, you know, for their checkups. I was able to schedule the checkups and he could tell when they are because we shared that Google Calendar. You know, his work schedule, he's one of those people that doesn't work, you know, 9 to 5 every day. So we put in his work schedule, and, you know, when I'm picking the kids up from the babysitter, hey, Debbie, like, here's our work schedule for this week. And she'd be like, okay, great. You know, it just became such a valuable tool to us that I've never looked back. And it works on computers, it works on Chromebooks, it works on phones and mobile and all that kind of stuff. And it syncs across the board. I love it. And if I showed you my calendar, every time somebody looks at my calendar, they're like, oh, Sarah, how do you do that? I love my calendar. I love having calendars for a lot of different reasons. I'm very comfortable with it. So you have to use calendar for what works for you. So again, I'm not going to show you mine because that seems to overwhelm people. I may have a lot of calendars and I love it. They're all different colors. I'm a color person. Have you been able to tell that? All right, so I've got a few events on my calendar. And if you want to make an event, like, oh, you want to come to the webinar next week? Oh, there's a webinar next week? Yes, ma'am, there is. There is a webinar next week, and I'm just going to throw it. Oh, why can't I remember? I know it's on the 30th and 31st, okay? So let's go with 11 a.m. I'm just going to click. I just click there, and it's Tech You Can Do New Webinar. Look at all my ups and downs with my capitals. Fantastic. I've got it as an event. It's on June 30th or July 30th at 11 a.m. I know it's going to go for 2 hours, so I'm going to click in there and I'm going to adjust it. It makes my size of the color box over here a little bit bigger. I can invite other people. So maybe I say, hey, I know that my friend Jerry wants to watch this too, so I'm going to invite her. I could add her in. It would send her a calendar notification. Then it's going to show up on her calendar. It's wonderful. Over here, you can add in location, descriptions, save it. It's fantastic. Let me tell you what I use this locations thing here for. Not for a webinar, but I'm going to go ahead and click save, and boom, there it is. Let's come back to this birthday party. So I'm sure you've had these cases where maybe you're going to a conference, or maybe you're going to a new place. You're going to meet somebody for dinner, or you're going to travel to somewhere on vacation. What I love to do with that, let's go on a pretend vacation. Can we? Let's go on a pretend vacation. Oh, see, look at this. Like, it's using Google's AI. Like, oh, I'm going on vacation. Should we use this out of the office? Hey, that's pretty cool. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to stick with this event right here. But you can type in location. So let's say I wanted to go to Destin, Florida. I start typing, and again, that artificial intelligence is pulling this up, pulls up a zip code for me. I click save. Now, if you have a very, very specific location, you could actually put in an address. I don't know of any place down in Destin specifically, but now that that event is on my calendar, it'll sync to my phone. So then when I get in the car, and as much as I love geography and history, I am directionally challenged. I need to have a GPS to get me from point A to point B. I can get to places that I'm very familiar with, but if I'm going somewhere new, I need to have that GPS. I get the address, I plug it in my phone, and then she talks me through how to get there. And a lot of times I'll build out the events on my computer so I can get that specific address, and then it syncs to my phone, and I am golden. I love that feature. I love it. Now, did you notice anything else on this little birthday party? Do you notice this little guy here? Do you see it? See that little emoji? That's right. You can add in emojis to your calendar events. And I've really come to love this for the visual impact that it gives me. I would have scheduled appointments in teachers' classrooms, so I went there every week, or maybe it was every 2 weeks. So I use like the 2 people icon. So it's like the 2 gray shadow people standing next to each other. So whenever I saw that little icon, I'm like, oh, I got to go to a teacher's classroom. Or if I had a meeting, I used a computer because I was on the tech committee, right? So I would use the computer to make my brain remember that I had that meeting. If I had a conference or something, I'd pick a different icon. Whatever it is, like if you get into those routines, it can help you out very visually. And then, like I said, they do transfer over. They even show up on my watch. It's pretty fun. I'm just saying. I'm a little bit of an emoji lover like that. One last thing before we move on is if you don't like the calendar color that it generically gives you, you absolutely can change the color on this little color palette. So maybe I want to change birthdays to yellow. I don't have any birthdays on here right now. I do have a reminder, so maybe I need that reminder to be a dark gray to really kind of stand out. And reminders, you can set dates and times, and then notice over here to the right, you can integrate your Google Keep notes. See how they show up over here? And then you also have tasks, which are kind of like Google Keep, but they're single. They're not like the little notes, although you can have multiple lists for your tasks. So they kind of work the same. Just check them out. Just really check them out. All right, other questions or any questions about calendar, I should say, because this is one I do love calendar. I love making it colorful and emojis and fun stuff like that.
Okay, we have a couple of questions. One is there a way to add an event to multiple calendars at the same time?
Ooh, initially, no. But what you can do is, and this is what I do, you can duplicate. And then when you duplicate, instead of it being on, I gotta find it, down here. Oh no, it's not letting me. Maybe I don't have another calendar to add it onto. Let's make a birthday real quick. Okay, this is not my actual birthday, but let's, just do mine to do this. Now let's see if I can duplicate this. Oh, it's not letting me change. I should be able to change the calendar right here. But as far as I know, you cannot add it to multiple calendars at one time. What you can do is when you invite guests, it puts it on their calendar, but you're the owner of that event. So if you make changes to it or you delete it, it deletes for them as well.
How do you add things to the task list?
Oh, to the task list? Super easy. So I'm going to open up my tasks and over here, make plans. And then I could hit return and that just pops it onto my task list. But if you see that little pencil, you want to edit any of those details, you can add a date and a time. So let's set that for tomorrow. And let's actually set it for 10 a.m. Say okay. You can add subtasks. So if that's your big task and then you have multiple things underneath, you could add it there. And let's, excuse me, we're good to go on that. And then we're going to go back. Now notice it's got this tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then did you notice, it just took a second. Do you notice what it shows up over here now? Now it is added to my calendar. So then I'll get those notifications. I'll be able to see it. And if I try to schedule something else at that same time, I'm going to see that it's right there on my calendar. So that's pretty cool too. Anything else?
I think we are good to go.
All righty. Let's continue. What's next? Can you tell? This is another one that I just get very geeky about. This is super student friendly. It lives in Google Drive. You can create it in Google Drive. It's collaborative. Although the collaboration piece, it is a little bit slower. You do have to refresh your screen. It doesn't just automatically happen. So when you put students in it for the first time, this is how I introduce it to students. I love going in 3rd, 4th grade. They're great for being actually in the map with me. So I open up, and yes, I do have a map. I open up this map and I make it, I actually share it with their teacher, and then their teacher puts it in Google Classroom, and we set it to anyone with that link can edit. So everyone can come into this. Okay, no, you can't really see people yet, but you can come in here, and again, history, geography, nerds unite right here. You can zoom in and out, and I just say, okay, like everybody, like go in, like what do you see? What do you find? What do you notice? And the kids just start popping things out, like, oh, you can zoom in, oh, you could search, you could do this, you could do that. You know, they go crazy with this. And, you know, they're, oh, what do you see over there? And what do you see over there? And then somebody inevitably starts clicking around. And this is why I do it as a fun intro activity. I let them click around. I let them see what's there. A cool thing that you can do, whether the students know this or not, if you want to change what the base map looks like, so we're on the map, and here's a satellite. So it changes the map. Now, if you have 20 to 30 kids in on this map, it doesn't change it instantly for the students. So if I notice that somebody has changed something, I say, okay, now everybody, you know, take your hands off. Okay, now I want you to refresh your screen. And when they go back and they refresh and then their screen changes, they're like, what happened? And I'm like, oh, somebody changed the style of the map. There's a whole bunch of different styles of maps on here. So again, social studies teachers, this is gonna be a great tool for you. You can add in, I love this, searching for Desiree. Let's find the UAE. Let's find out where that is. So I clicked on it, and it's now jumped us over to that part of the world, and it's given us this little green, lime green pin, and I'm gonna say, add this to the map. Now, it is pretty zoomed in here, so what I'm also going to do then is I'm gonna zoom out, and we're gonna find out where our friend that's in the UAE is, and we're gonna see, hey, look at him, right over there. And then we could find some of our friends that are in Texas. Let's go to Texas. And we're gonna add that to the map. Awesome, and again, give us a little bit of perspective. Let's zoom out. There's Texas. You know, let's find out where, let's go to Ohio. You know, let's add you to the map. I mean, you could keep going on and on and on. Think about books that you read that talk about different locations. Think about content that you teach. Think about explorers and scientists from all around the world. Your map could become all of these little pins. And when I scooch out, I'm going to zoom out so I can see all of my pins. You got to keep going. Keep going. Actually, I'm going to scooch over now. You have all of these pins over the earth. Then when you come and you click on them, you can actually tuck in. You can include like this little pin. You can say 14 people. They can put narrative, they can put text in there, they can add in links. You can use the camera on here to either do a search, or you can add in pictures. You can make it very multimedia. I also have be sure to check out my Wakelet resources, because I did tuck in, I wrote a blog more than a year ago about 4 different ways that you could use my maps in the classroom. For books, if you're talking about a city, the students could pick any city. Like if it's not a real city, they could pick any city, and they could identify where a house is and pick a school that's nearby and pick a river that they go in on a field trip to. Or, you know, maybe they're in Washington, D.C. and they go and they explore all of these different places. They can add in a lot of content and a lot of information on these little map pins. Now, it's not just putting and dropping map pins on here. Very cool way that I've seen this used is to give students an idea of distances, right? So this ruler right here, when you hover over it, you can measure. So if I want to go from Texas over to the UAE, now notice the curve, and this is where you can talk to students about, like, this is flat, the earth is actually round, you know, so that's why the line is curving like that. So you can see that it's roughly 8,000 miles away. You know, and have your conversation, or I'm sure you can change the, obviously I'm in the mileage area. But then you can even come back to Ohio, and now you've traveled a total of, it's, you know, connecting, it's a total of 15,482 miles. I mean, you could jump from place to place and check out this mileage. Another thing that you could do is, let's say you want to, let's draw a line and you want to connect. This is something that I kind of like. So I'm drawing this and I'm connecting them, right? So I've created this shape. So it's calling it a polygon, and I'm just going to leave it named that. You could have students naming whatever it is that they want to. But look at what it shows you down here. It gives you the total square mileage. And it shows you how many miles you're traveling right here. That's pretty impressive. And over here on the left side, notice my pins are on here as well as my polygon. So it's going to stay there. So you could have students zoom way in on maps and draw out shapes, and I'm connecting these 3 capitals, or I'm connecting these 3 landmarks, and it made a triangle. Or they have to draw a pentagon between 5 different points. And I mean, you really could do a lot more than just staring at maps. So I'm just putting that out there. I love Google Maps, my maps, virtual field trips. Again, it gives students that context of where things are in the world. Timelines are great on this. If you want to talk, you know, about major battles, major events in your country's life, and they happen in different spots, those map pins could become that timeline. All right, questions? All right, I'm going to take that as a no questions. Continuing on, YouTube. Anybody start sweating a little bit? Like, oh, why would we use YouTube? YouTube is bad. YouTube is not bad. It can be used poorly. A lot of things can be used poorly. I love YouTube. Desiree has an awesome YouTube channel. Google for Education, I've linked it down here, has an awesome YouTube channel. Free video sharing. I enjoy listening to music on YouTube when I'm working on my computer. You know, I don't have to worry about whether my phone's nearby or I've got a radio or something like that. I plug in my little headphones and I can put on music and I can focus in on my work. I use it a lot for that. But YouTube has some pretty awesome content out there too, if you're willing to look. And yes, caution, you've got to think about your student audience. The younger the student is, the more caution you need to take. You wouldn't throw in any VHS tape or DVD player or movie of any nature without previewing it. Same with YouTube. You just don't go wild and crazy on there. But you can go to YouTube and you can curate, just like you curate websites. Playlists are a great thing in YouTube. You could have an entire playlist for all of these math topics that you're studying. And you give students 5 or 6 different videos to watch. I was listening to a podcast this morning and he said, you know, you could go learn from 5,000 different educators and maybe 3 of them are ones that you really understand how they're speaking and they look like you, or you're more comfortable with them, or whatever the reason is that those teachers that are there can help you out and help you understand the content. Now, as a teacher too, you could do what a lot of teachers do and record their own videos and put them on YouTube for their students to be able to reference. Not just today, but next year and the following year and in their own time. And maybe by you doing that, students in other teachers' classrooms can access those and they can learn too. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use YouTube. And I'm actually going to go to my student account again. And I've pulled up Google for Education's YouTube page. There is a lot in YouTube, and it's pretty easy to get overwhelmed. But if you just stop and go, okay, I can totally handle this. This search bar up here is super easy. It acts like the search bar anywhere that you go. So if you're looking for a particular topic, let's say Pythagore, look at that, it even helps you spell Pythagorean theorem. You're going to go there, and maybe you hadn't really thought about using YouTube to help support this, but in these remote times, can you make a video for everything that you have to teach? Maybe you can. Maybe you can't. And other people have done some of this. So let's help each other shoulder the burden a little bit. Again, you have to preview this. And you have to get comfortable with, again, anything that you do search-wise, you have to be able to vet your sources. So maybe you are familiar with Khan Academy and you're like, hey, that's a great video. So maybe you grab that and you add it to a playlist for the Pythagorean theorem. Maybe you really like this video and you watch it through and through and you're like, hey, this really hits on all this stuff for my students. And so you start collecting these and then you share this playlist with the students. Pick any one or two of these videos to watch to better help you understand or refer to. Students may have questions when we're not around. Even if we're back face-to-face with our students, when they go home, how many of them can just pick up their phone and call you? I'm guessing probably not that many. But if you give them a means of good, solid sources to go to, AKA this playlist, they're going to be able to go there. The parents are going to be able to understand that they're going to these places and getting good content. Now, again, you know your students best. You know your families, you know your community the best. If they are not accepting of YouTube, your school has turned off YouTube, obviously this is not going to work for you. But if you are a school or a teacher that has access to it, I highly suggest that you go on here and you look at this stuff. It's pretty incredible, everything that's here. And I would highly suggest that you do subscribe. Oh, let me turn him off. Subscribe to these channels, and then you get the notifications for when they put out new material. You can subscribe to Desiree's, like she said at the very beginning, and then you get notified when she puts out new videos. Google also has, and this is a newer piece to Google's, it's the YouTube Learning. I've already got it pulled up over here. And this is very specific to education. Google for Education, obviously the whole thing is, but this is all about learning. And you come down here and you see these collected pieces or these collected videos that they've put together. It's pretty awesome when you look through here, what they've already collected together. I mean, all about ice cream. Who would have thought? I bet a lot of your students would be very interested in this. And if you find interesting videos like this, have your students talk about them, have them write, have them ask questions about them, have them teach somebody else. I mean, maybe they can learn how to make some of this ice cream. How fun would that be? Measuring, finding the ingredients, making sure that it's safe for their families if there are any allergies that are involved. You really could turn a lot of this into some really powerful academic learning for your students. So don't be afraid of YouTube, but do use caution, especially as in your various age ranges. And another thing I'd like to point out is I have uploaded any of the videos that I have made to a YouTube channel. And notice I've embedded them here on my Google slide. Okay, so you're not getting all of that distraction all around your video. I do believe at the end it does show like those suggested videos at the end. I think there's a way that I can turn them off, knowing that my audience is adults. I didn't do that, but again, you can think about that and you can use that good content and bring it and keep it a little bit safer then for your students as well. So Desiree, I just noticed the time. I think I have like 2 more to get through, but again, I've got stuff in there. Are there any questions about YouTube?
No questions about YouTube. We did have one about my maps that I missed because I stepped away. We'll go back to that at the end.
Okay, so let's go move on. I think, oh, Google Arts and Culture. This is one, it's a hidden gem. It is a hidden gem. If you haven't heard about it, you haven't seen it, you have got to check out Google Arts and Culture. It's a nonprofit, and I put this in quotes because I thought it was written very nicely. It's a mission to preserve and bring the world's art and culture online so it's accessible to anyone, anywhere. And we're talking like big places. MoMA, the Louvre has some things, virtual field trips. You can enhance content. It's amazing what they have on their website. I'm just going to go here very briefly. They do have an app that allows you to do some pretty cool things. One is you can take a picture of yourself and then it will scan through all of the artwork that they have, and they kick back to you artwork that most similarly is the most similar to your face. It's kind of cool. But you can explore a lot of different places. Here's a music and art together, doing explore nearby. I mean, just start clicking and checking this out. Art teachers, absolutely. Virtually explore the Van Gogh Museum. How cool is that? And how many of us are going to ever get to do that? But other contents, you want students to talk about pictures. You want them to analyze images. Come here, check this stuff out. They've got a lot going on over here. They have themes. You can search by certain artists, movements, historical events. Okay, of course, I see that and I have to go there, right? All of these different things. If you're studying the American Civil War, go check it out. If you're studying the Arab-Israeli conflict, 373 items. Primary sources, people. Like, this is good quality imagery. This is solid. This is backed up. Like, this is not just Sarah Kiefer collecting pictures and then sharing them out. This is incredible. This is a wealth of information, a wealth of resources to be sure to check out. So it's last, and I don't mean to cut it short, but we are running short on time. And again, because we're talking artwork, there could be some sensitive things based on your student's age. I always had the 7th and 8th graders when we'd show ancient Greek art, in our text. I mean, they're in our textbooks, kids. Hello, and they get the giggles. And just keep that in mind when we're talking about artwork. Some of it can be very sensitive depending on students' ages. Arts and Culture also has a YouTube channel that I suggest that you check out. It's got some really good content on there as well. All right, whew, deep breath. I've got 2 more slides for us, but Desiree, questions on arts and culture?
No, keep on going.
Okay, so I couldn't stop myself, you guys. I knew I was pushing it to get through the 10. I literally thought about maybe putting a timer on my watch to keep me on track. I think I did okay. But there's so much more, and this isn't even exhaustive here. So I highlighted 8 more tools, apps, websites, things that I think that you might be interested in. These are a little bit more obscure. These are a little bit more specific. This Chrome Music Lab, kids love it. Absolutely love it. They go around, they just play music and all this kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. AutoDraw is phenomenal. Eric Kurtz has an entire blog post. He does sessions at conferences, and he calls them the hipster tools, some of which are covered here, but he goes through and he kind of gives you an overview of a bunch. I've seen this session that he's done, and it's crazy. But he has a whole blog post that I've linked there for you. Be Internet Awesome is a digital citizenship website where students can go and they can play games, and it's got a lot of teacher resources too, so you could teach students about digital citizenship. It's great. They have badges, they have certificates at the end. Tour Creator, Tour Builder, those are pieces where you can actually do some of the creation, like we talked about with expeditions. Science Journal, I don't think this one has really taken off like it could. It's amazing. It's a great app for your phone, for mobile devices, And you have all these different kinds of meters that you can check light sensitivity or sound, or you can jump with it and it'll tell you how high you've jumped. It's great. It is absolutely great. And then this applied digital skills, it's an entire curriculum of tech skills and using Google. It has videos in there. They can make copies of things. You can, I believe it now integrates with Google Classroom, but it does have its own like classroom scenario. You'd have to, sign into it. Definitely more geared towards older students, but things like plan an event, and then it walks them through step by step. Okay, so you need a Google Doc to collaborate with your peers on what event are you going to have, and use a Google Drawing to design a poster, and create a Google site to share all of your information. It walks them through all of that. It's fantastic. Check all of these out. Check them out. They're there. They're free. And pick and choose the things that you want to use. And come back to here. Don't try all of them today or tomorrow. It's going to be overwhelming. But just know that this stuff is here and Google's constantly creating. And I love it. I love all of the stuff that they put out there. And then the final, yep, there's more for our surprise. No, those are that's it. Sorry, I thought there was one more slide. Nope, it was our surprise slide. But I've already talked about that, and Desiree covered that at the beginning. Our surprise, 2 more webinars. Woo!
Woo! With the time we have left in My Maps, can you show us how to get that to the students?
Oh, okay. So again, it has the same sharing thought process. It doesn't look the same, but over here to the left, and this is where, doing a little deep dive into these, click on the share button, and then it's going to bring up your sharing options. Down here, I have it so anyone on the internet with this link can view. So again, if you're in your domain, maybe you restrict it to just your domain. You can add in specific people right here. So if you only want to share it with like 3 people, if you're going to do the Google Classroom, like what I said I did, I restricted it to anyone in our domain could edit. And then I gave the link to the teacher, and then the teacher put it in Google Classroom. And that's how the students, so she would have copied the link. I'm done with this. Go to her Google Classroom and then paste that link in there. And then all of the students jump into this map. And then what I would do too was, because the kids like always, they loved it. And can I get on this later? Can I get on this later? So based on what the teacher wanted, sometimes I would have to come back to that share button and I would change it back to view. So they could always come back and see the map, but they couldn't always edit the map. So think about those ideas as well.
Okay, since we have a minute or two, we did have another question. It could be Google, but since we have a couple of minutes, what's the difference between Tour Builder and Tour Creator?
Okay, so that's really kind of like a fine line. Tour Builder, I think it all still reads that it's in beta. And I've used Tour Builder a few different times, and I really liked it. I thought it was very friendly. However, I don't think that that's going to be the platform that exists long term. I would not check it out, but I wouldn't invest a tremendous amount of time there. Tour Creator, however, is they're newer, and you can kind of see just based on the way the icon is designed. This one is the one that I do believe will be the long-term version, and this is where you can create the expeditions, create that AR, that VR experience. You build that in Tour Creator. This is going to be one that you're going to have some skill levels up here. I've never personally done it. I have heard of people doing it. I've heard of like high school students using it to create some of those experiences. But I really don't think Tour Builder is going to be around for forever. I think that's probably going to be one tool that might end up dropping off. I could be totally wrong on that. That's just my impression. Anything else?
I think that is it. Thank you so much, Sarah. Go ahead and give some feedback in the chat because she will get a copy of this chat like normal. So thank you so much. I do want to say that you have to fill out the evaluation, and only for those people who are here live, you have to fill out the evaluation to get your certificate. And again, Sarah, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for letting me do this, Desiree.